All right, so I'm gonna start with addiction because I was an addict, right? And I remember that when I was in active addiction, at the beginning, not before I went into recovery. Why? Before I went into recovery, I thought that I was hiding it from people, right? But then after I got into recovery, and I would have a couple months clean, and then I would relapse. You could see, I could see that my light would dim, right? That my physical vessel would manifest sickness. It would look like it was sick, right? Because the spirit of addiction was operating through me, and it was consuming me, right? Now, you wouldn't be able to see a actual spirit, like, coming in and sucking the life out of you, but you would be able to see that, my light was dim. I looked a little sick. I look a little skinny. I was more prone to diseases, most prone to sickness, right? So, this is an example of how spirits who are not of our best interests operate through us from within us, and then they manifest in our physical realm, right? So now let's look at the spirit of what is that called? Gluttony, right? Which is also a form of addiction, right? But this one is a little bit, we could just say it's like the same thing, right? But there are that comes with like extra levels, right? So let's look at gluttony, right? And so with gluttony, it doesn't have to just be food, right? It could be sex. It could be porn, right? It could be we have food, money. It could be gossiping, manipulation, gaslighting, right? It's doing more of something, right? The same way of addiction, right? Now, of drug addiction, right? Or alcoholism, right? So now, when you look at drug addiction, right, which is also alcoholism, goes within that one. The more you do of that one, right, it's going to manifest in your body. You're going to see it. You're going to see that you're going to get skinnier, or you might get fatter, right? You're going to get skinnier or fatter. And you're going, depending on the drugs that you're using, and you're going to see that your vessel is going to look a little like if it's decaying, right? Now, when it comes to, like, let's say you have greed with money, right? That's not going to manifest in your body like a sickness, right? So this is the example of, like, there are some that you could physically see on your vessel, manifesting on your vessel, and then there are others that you have to have the spiritual eyes to see, right? So now when it comes to like a sex addiction, right, which is a gluttony of like sex, right? That one is another one that you're not going to see it manifesting in the vessel in a way where it's like you look skinnier or you look fatter or you look any different, right? You're just, you and whoever you're sleeping around with are the ones that are going to know that you have an addiction to sex, right? And that you just want more and more and more of it, and that you might have a problem. And because you are in an addiction mode, you most likely won't think you have a problem. You just think that you're normal, that you're okay, So another example of how certain spirits, right, they manifest, they can sometimes manifest in the physical realm, and then some they don't, right? But with this one, like with addiction, right, you might catch a disease, right? So you would know that you had a manifestation of your addiction, of the gluttony, through whatever disease you caused, right? But only you would see that unless you're telling someone, or you and your doctor would know this, right? So there are some that are prone for other people to see, and then there are some that only you know that it's happening through you. And then sometimes people are in denial, and they'll be like, oh no, that just happened to me, it wasn't nothing big, right? I'll just take this medicine and it'll go away. And sometimes you'll get an incurable disease, right? And now you're gonna have to be taking medicine forever, or whatever the sentence is with your medical provider, right? So examples of that as well. And so which one was the other one? So we had gluttony, right? We had sex, money, food. With food, the manifestation of it in our physical vessel, it's that we get bigger, we get fatter, right? We get obese. So that's a manifestation of it in the physical vessel, right? And so now, like, this is the next one is one that I was really dwelling on. It's the one of gossiping, right? So you just gluttony. You just like to talk and talk about people all the time, and you do that often, and you do it all the time, right? So you just have an addiction of like lying and gossiping and making things up, right? And so this one here doesn't have a manifestation where it's going to come up where you're going to get fatter or you're going to get skinnier or you're going to get sick. No, right? You're just blaspheming. You're just gossiping, talking things, creating false narratives, and just running your mouth because you have a mouth, and that's how you choose to use your free will, right? So when it comes to this one here, there's no physical manifestation of it. You don't get fat, you don't get skinny, your body doesn't reflect sickness, right? So this one is very exclusive per se, right? You could get away with this one, specifically if you have a group of people that like to be followers and listen to what you got to say, right? And believe what you got to say, because you might also have the art of manipulation or creating illusions, right? So now when it comes to this spirit doesn't create something physical in your bezel, but it can affect somebody else, right? So like the person that you're attacking, which most likely when you're doing these things, when you're gossiping of other people, you are not telling them to their face, right? But you're creating a framework where you got people involved now, right? So now you're gossiping, and then you got other people involved, right? So now you have a train of people talking about someone else, right? And so now this affects the other person, right? So now the other person might be isolated, the other person might feel rejected, the other person might feel abandoned, unwanted, right? So now you're creating results in somebody else's life, right? So this is a form of dark magic. And this is why this is a form of dark magic, because the intent of it is for you to create issues for someone else, which it does, because now you've created problems for someone else. And even if they're minute, where the other person is emotionally strong enough to not engage, to not indulge, to, choose peace over chaos, still the fact that you are creating these false scenarios on someone causes an impact in this person's vessel, right? So now maybe this person might have a little bit of anxiety or a little bit of depression, right? Or just might feel isolated, which will trigger certain wounds, right? And if the person that you're attacking is strong enough, they might choose to just go ahead and heal and find out, why am I being triggered by these people doing this? But again, in order to get to that space, we have to be emotionally strong and brave enough to go ahead and put the mirror in front of us, and instead of looking at the other people, look at ourselves and say, hey, why is this triggering me? I know what they're saying is not true, so why does it bother me? What wound is it that is attaching itself to that I am allowing it to trigger me, right? That's how emotionally mature people do it. But again, not everybody is at that level. And so when we look at it like that, it does affect the other person, right? Because we might feel wounded, like, why are you attacking me? What have I done to you? And so on. So it does have effects.